So people with undiagnosed ADD, they say are up to 400% more likely to have a substance abuse disorder. And I've seen different numbers, anywhere from 200 to 400, which is really just 2x to 4x. But it sounds way bigger when you say, as a guy did on a webinar, 400%. Doesn't that sound way bigger than 4x?
Yeah,
four
a
times?
lot bigger.
So,
yeah.
And now I've been sober 19 plus months. Thank you very much.
Yeah, wow.
And I found I was just as unproductive. And finally, my psychologist said, you have ADD.
Since I went on them, oh my God, I noticed such a difference to and I know I'm still not the best at being organized or all of that, but just the difference that it did make was amazing. Not doing, and I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I going? What am I doing right now? And then I'll be like, I'll look at the time and I'll be like, okay, it's been so many hours and I haven't taken my tablets. So that's why I'm being like this. And then I'll take another one.
You know what hit me recently was the irony. For those at home, Adderall, dexamphetamine, all those are stimulants. Now they say ADHD people are overstimulated. We are hyperstimulated because we notice everything. We focus on everything. So the cure for being overstimulated is, what's the medical cure? To take a stimulant. That makes no sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Right?
Nah.
Isn't that crazy? Okay, quick intro if you're lucky. So this is with one of my two main ADD accountability partners, Karla. And it's funny, this originally was just going to be our first time catching up live on Zoom. This was 6+ months ago. And I said, hey, let's film this as a podcast because I know some great material is going to come out of it. So we did, but I don't think our conversation would have gone much, if any, differently had this not been filmed as a podcast. So I do hope you enjoy it as much as I did watching it back. And I hope you're watching it, not just listening, because there's some pretty good facial reactions on there. And, beyond that, I mentioned on here, I thought it was going to be the first one of my podcast that had to do with more so with ADD, but I since kind of pushed ahead in the line, a podcast you've hopefully seen, number 5, with my ADD coach, Ali. And then the two most recent ones were with Jake, a member of my community, ADD community, who's also a therapist. So the Karla ones I intended more as almost a fill-in, but I did listen back and think, yeah, let's air this. So another note is, I'm definitely talking a lot about ADD and not just sobriety as part of my recovery podcast, because I've always thought the majority of alcoholics suffer from ADD as well, or ADHD, the proper name, because of all the damage we've done to our prefrontal cortex, and also even just gray area problem drinkers. Same thing, because often they were drinking to self-medicate their ADD. As always, thanks for listening and or watching. Peace. Okay, welcome to the Cappy Hour podcast. Joining me today is world-renowned ADHD author Ivy Castillo, a.k.a. Karla Genge. You know why this podcast is called Cappy Hour, Karla?
Why?
Well, my last name's Capello.
Yeah.
My nickname's Cappy. And then do you know why Cappy Hour makes sense? Do you have happy hours over there? She's in Australia, but she's from the UK. So you have happy hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Cappy hour.
So you get it? It named itself because it was supposed to be a recovery sobriety podcast, but this is the first episode where I'm expanding it into ADHD, which is just as big a battle. And the majority, every alcoholic I ever mention it to says they have it as well. And we can talk about the reasons during this. So that's how I know Karla from my ADHD community, which I joined one, much like a sobriety community. Turns out they're out there. So that's how I know her. And yes, again, tell us where you're from and how you got to Australia, Karla.
So I'm from the southwest in England, Somerset, farmerland. And I've been in Australia, it'll be 13 years this year. why did I move? My story was I was engaged, bought a house with my fiance to be at the time, and we both decided we wanted different things. I wanted to travel. He was quite happy not to, so we broke up. 5 weeks later, I was on a plane to Australia to see my friends in Melbourne. It's like, yeah, only going for a year and then I'll be back. And I'm still here 13 years later.
Amazing. And I got to tell people about the start of this podcast. We're starting at 40 minutes late, all mainly because of me. Right off the bat, I said, I need 5 extra minutes. I had all day. We scheduled this for 5 o'clock my time, Eastern time, 8 o'clock her a.m. her time, 5 p.m. mine. And I still needed 5 extra minutes because 10 minutes before I was taking a quick cold shower and then getting my stuff together. And then we get on, and I couldn't see her on camera, though she could see herself. So I said, that's funny. I almost played a trick on you where I pretended I was going to go like this, which those who aren't watching, I was going to fake talk so she'd think she couldn't hear me. And I had her get off and back on to see if the camera, so I could see her. Well, that worked, but then I couldn't hear her. And then I said, are you playing that trick on me? She was like, no, I'm not. It got me the point. I said, no way is she that good at this. And yeah, finally she goes, yes, I am.
Payback.
She totally got me. And I wish we had all of that on the recording. Oh, and then she said, anyway, now we're just using our voices, right? The camera's just for us. I said, no, I record this visual also for the YouTube version. And I thought she was going to freak and say, but my hair. But no, she goes, but my background, which I hadn't even noticed. And looks fine to me. She's got some surfboards back there. We'll get to that. And a little note board, which I'd like to even hear about that. I need to buy a whiteboard. So I need to show you my chalkboard, remind me. So, but yeah, she didn't even get to. Then about 10 minutes later, she goes, oh, and my hair's a mess. It's in a bun, blah, blah, blah. But no, I think you look adorable. Although you're fuzzy to me at the moment, but they should be adjusting your quality. So hopefully you won't have any issues. They do have high-speed internet in Australia, right? You're not on dial-up or anything?
Wow. The thing is, I actually do have issues with my internet. So it could be, because I don't have an internet connection because I'm in a granny flat and the landlord's house is behind. So they've got the internet, and then the Euros that you can get, the like extenders.
Yep.
He's got one in his house, one in his garage, and I've got one under my house to be able to get the internet in here. And then 2 days ago, because we had real bad weather, the one outside stopped working because the rain got into the cable. So now I've got a backup one out there. So I'm hoping it's going to be okay and not cut out.
Well, we will just hope the Australian extended internet holds up. All right, so there's so many places to begin, but I guess I want to get some more background on you, but we should jump into the ADHD thing and the connection even to alcoholism. They say people with undiagnosed, and I'm going to call it ADD, by the way, for simplicity, undiagnosed ADD, and technically they are two different things. If you don't have the H, hyperactive part, then you do just have ADD. So people with undiagnosed ADD, they say are up to 400% more likely to have a substance abuse disorder. And I've seen different numbers, anywhere from 200 to 400, which is really just 2x to 4x, but it sounds way bigger when you say, as a guy did on a webinar, 400%. Doesn't that sound way bigger than 4x?
Yeah,
four
a
times?
lot bigger.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, I know the reason for that is that we need, as I've learned, in order for us to be productive, we need constant dopamine hits. We need to be, fed dopamine hits to give us the incentive to do true work. And alcohol for me did have that effect for years. So all you people that need to drink in order to clean the house, or for me, it was to do my expense reports or send out emails. I was in sales for a long time, and every day after everyone would leave, shockingly, this is a progressive disorder, disease. I wouldn't really drink during the day till much later in my career. But when everyone leave, I'd stay late at the office and I would drink wine and I'd send out emails into the night, and it worked for me. But the way it works, eventually it stops working for you. So the last 10 years or whatever, a lot of the reason I drank was to be productive. Never worked. But every day I would try it over and over again. So yeah, because I didn't know, I just thought all my issues were related to drinking. And now I've been sober 19 plus months. Thank you very much.
Yeah, wow.
And I found I was just as unproductive. And finally my psychologist said, you have ADD. So that's the connection. And as our coach says, what it really is for most of us is a lack of executive function and dopamine dysregulation, which of course ties right into alcoholics. We have dopamine dysregulation because we abuse it so much that we actually lose a lot of our dopamine receptors and we get totally dysregulated. And we lose our executive function because we do brain damage to our prefrontal cortex, which is where the executive function sits, which for those who hadn't heard the term, that's all your organizational skills and your rational thinking skills and your planning skills, even your lack of your impulse control. Everything sits there. So I personally have a theory that drinking actually even causes ADD, and that's why a lot of people don't get it till they're adults. But AI says otherwise, but I am going to pursue that for sure. Because I did not have it as a child, whereas you did. So I want to hear, go ahead, about your drinking and your ADD.
So I wasn't diagnosed as a kid, but always my grandparents, my mum, and family that knew me was like, Karla just cannot keep still. Like literally always moving, running around on my bike. Where am I going next? Could not just sit me down and do anything. But it wasn't until early 30s that I actually got diagnosed with it. So, and it was only because I had, in a week, I just moved up to the Central Coast and I had a friend. No, sorry. First of all, it was my surf coach. I've been surfing with him for quite a while. And he said to me one day, have you got ADHD? I was like, I don't know. Have I? What's that? I didn't really know much about it. And then I think it was the same week or the week after, a friend that I'd met up here, she asked me the exact same thing and was like, have you got ADHD? I was like, you're the second person that's asked me that. Maybe I should go and find out. Maybe that's why I struggle with this. I get stressed and I can't regulate and all of this stuff. And then, went to the doctors, got a referral. And I think I had to wait like 6 months for to be able to see a psychiatrist. And then, went through all these, screening question things that you have to go through. And it was like, yes, you're very high. I'm having ADHD.
Yeah, and interesting, because you have more, I think, of the traditional, like you have what I have, plus the traditional ADHD that is, they say there are two kinds. Inattentive, which sounds like you have, and that's what he picked up on, right?
Yeah.
And then hyperactive is the other, which you have as well. And then they say there's a combo of the two that people have. But what they don't talk about, there's really another kind called ADHD paralysis. And that's definitely what I have, and I think you have as well. And that is, they say, a state of emotional immobility where individuals feel unable to initiate or complete tasks despite their desire to do so.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm dealing with, and what our coach, Ali is his name, talks about in terms of lack of executive function and dopamine dysregulation. So yeah, there's a lot of different facets to it. And I think you have them all. Congrats.
It's really hard to decide on which one I need to work on first.
Yeah, and I said to you recently, I realized for me, I don't think I've ever been considered hyperactive, but I'm definitely restless. So I say, if anything, I have HDRD.
Is class, I think, as the hyperactivity, because you just can't sit still, or like you're going to have a foot moving. Like you'll see me, I literally can't keep still. Something has to be moving.
Yeah. No, the only time I remember that is in church. I had restless leg syndrome, which is a thing, RLS. In church, my knee would always be going a mile a minute. Maybe any time I was sitting probably, but it's vividly remembered in church. And now I'm a huge stander, if you can even tell. Now I'm standing. So there's one thing, I don't like to be confined to a chair, but it's even as much about my poor posture. But anyway, so it's interesting that you have all that. And as people also know, everyone thinks it's a lack of focus, but in a lot of ways it's being hyper-focused on things that other people don't even notice. Like when I was playing indoor pickleball, there'd be TVs on in the background and I could not help but focusing on those and then people walking by and all that stuff. And my opponent would be oblivious to all that stuff. So yeah, there's so many facets to this, but I mainly want to focus for today on the paralysis part because that is such a big part of this that people don't understand. You tell someone you have ADHD, they go, oh yeah, so do I. I can't focus. My mother's doing that to me the other day. And I'm like, yeah.
Everyone's got it now.
Exactly. And everyone does have it because of the internet. You know, everyone probably has 10, 20 tabs open and everyone gets distracted from doing their work by web surfing. For us, that's just table stakes for us. Like that, yeah, everyone's got that. That's not ADHD. And for us, that's the number one thing we have to find discipline for and control. We use an app our coach advised called Opal that blocks all the apps and the websites. But it's really about, I call it a lack of work ethic. You know, my brain just does not allow me to do any true work other than on rare occasions. And in which case you get in what they call flow state and then you're a machine. So people who have overcome this do call it a superpower. And you and I eventually, and our coach definitely considers it that. Guy runs like 3 companies and claims he still has all kinds of free time.
You know what though? I think it's not lack of like work ethic because like when I obviously work for companies and everything, I always exceeds expectations in what I'm meant to do. But when it's stuff for yourself, I think that's where it's the difference because you have different thoughts and things that go through your head of doing it on your own instead of knowing that you're working for someone, they're telling you and you're right, okay, yeah, go. That's it.
I know exactly what you mean. I've always been a good performer at my job, but it has to be forced labor, basically.
Yeah.
You know, I've said we're very good at manual labor. You know, it's one reason I bought a pizza shop. I didn't even realize, I bought myself a job because I didn't fit in the corporate world anymore. And I realized that I had no choice but to show up there every day and then to work quickly due to the demand. So I guess, yes, I was a good employee, but it took me double the time to do everything. I had no sense of urgency. And yeah, I couldn't do things unless I really had to. And again, I thought that was because I was single, I didn't have places to be, etc. But now I'm realizing, or because of just the drinking making my mind lethargic. But again, since I've quit drinking, I've still struggled. You know, technically I still have nowhere to be, but I would like to have a life. I'd like to actually be able to plan activities. And I still can't do that. I mean, we cannot, they say people with this cannot do anything unless they have a deadline or a penalty, which I think is Ali talks about. We either need dopamine to give us the adrenaline hit to do something, or noradrenaline, I think it's called, it gives you the, or norepinephrine, gives you the negative, the pain associated with not doing something. So I should have reviewed that part of it better. But anyway, yeah, it's brutal. So we talk every day about trying to be productive. And again, yeah, lack of work ethic is I'm just working on a better definition.
Yeah.
Once I get in a flow state now, I am a machine. But it's only when I get in there.
It's just the starting for us. Like, as soon as you can get that discipline and that just go, then you're in the flow state. You can keep going. But it's the initial, and that's what I struggle with as well. It's finding something that can make you go, right, start now.
Yeah. And what did you mean about personal? Sound like you struggle with doing personal stuff? And I may as well. I'm asking it just to clarify what
do you mean
meant.
personal stuff? Did
I don't know.
say
When
that?
you said it's not a lack of work ethic and I've always done well at jobs, but it's been personally.
Oh, so when you do stuff for yourself, like personally like write books or you're doing your own podcast and things like that, I think it's a lot harder.
Boom. Yes. And I feel like people listening are always like, don't keep cutting her off or let her speak. And I'm definitely going to. But yes, oh my God, you hit it. I'm trying not to look at my notes because I have so many. Self-motivated. We really struggle. In fact, my know-it-all contrarian friend Matt, who I had to even divorce because of those qualities, but he may still be watching. One area he was correct. He did say when I told him I was going to start a podcast, and possibly it was my only vocation, it was going to be the Joe Rogan of Sobriety podcast. He said, you can't do it. You can't work from home. You can't be self-motivated, etc. I mean, he basically accused me of not having a work ethic, as well as another friend of mine did. And in the end, I think they were right. And that's part of the reason I describe it as that. But now I know why, and I'm going to overcome this. But yes, we struggle with being self-motivated, and I'd say work with our minds, or again, term white collar. We can't, manual labor, blue collar work, we can do all day. When we're machines, we're great at it. But if we try to do I just find white collar as mental work, self-motivated, yeah, it's very, very difficult for us to do. And that's also something maybe everyone says, oh, I struggle with that too. But we're in a whole different category. We will absolutely screw ourselves, screw our lives, unless there's a massive, massive penalty attached, or we're getting a dopamine hit from it. They just say we have naturally less dopamine, and we get less dopamine out of doing regular work. We don't find it as rewarding as some people do, just to accomplish things, right?
Yeah. There was actually a book that came up in my emails yesterday about ADHD. There's an ADHD full collection, and it's got ADHD and sleep, what everyone should know about ADHD. And one of them was ADHD and dopamine. So I think that could be quite a good book. It says why your brain feels stuck and how to fix it. So, because it's getting that dopamine, right? How do we get that more dopamine to do stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. And now I can almost tell you how. I mean, now we know how to fix it, basically. And I want to talk about that. By the way, did you say fall collection or full?
You did F-U-L-L.
Okay. That's why I laughed at first. I thought you said fall, and I said, she must have said full.
Understand my accent?
Oh, I meant to bring that up at the beginning. We're going to need subtitles for Karla. Right, as I prefer to call her Ivy. Ivy Castillo is her pen name. I think I can say that right.
Castillo.
Private joke. She pronounced it Castillo, and I said, I think it's Castillo, and I think that's fairly universal, which Google kind of confirmed.
I'll call it what I want. My pen name, my pronunciation.
Fair enough. I love calling her Ivy. So, yeah, and it's funny. We trade voice memos a lot, and half the time I have to rewind and try to understand her or look at the transcript, but half the time they don't even give one because I think it's fruitless, or they don't understand her either. They'll just skip over the part that I couldn't understand. So I was going to say to try to speak English on this podcast, not what do you speak back home? Cockney? Is that a dialect? Is that
oh my God, you need to listen to the Somerset accent because it's more farmer from where I'm from. And it's like, oh, I can't even do it. I was so bad at doing accents. I'm not even going to try. But type into Google the accent of someone from Somerset, okay, later, and you have to listen to it.
All right, will do. How far is that from London and or Scotland? My only two ways of thinking in my head.
So I'm about 2.5, 3 hours from London. South. London.
All right.
Different way for you. Yeah.
Funny, in one of my sobriety communities is a woman from Scotland, and her accent was so heavy. At first I said, I can't attend her calls. I would just hang up. And then I came to get used to it, and she became my favorite host. Louise is her name, and she actually did a ton for me in my recovery. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Making me misty just to talk about her. So yes, good thing I persevered with that accent. All right, so back to this. When I really understood what it was, and then I had it, was when I actually went on medication, which I finally did thanks to my therapist, who kept saying I had it. And then she said, you should try medication. So before I tell that story, let's hear we've never discussed it. Have you tried the meds?
Yeah, I take dexamphetamines.
Oh, okay. Is that the stimulant or the non-stimulant?
Stimulant,
It
yeah.
is the stimulant. What's the brand? Like, is it a form of Adderall or, maybe we discussed. It's not. It's like, I only think of Adderall and Vyvanse and Ritalin, but I think someone told me about.
I don't know what, it just says Aspen dexamphetamine. So these ones are like, they last, I think, like 3 to 4 hours. So you do have to take them like a number of times a day if you want to do it like that way. But I also did try the day release ones, like the long lasting release ones that you take one in the morning and it lasts all day. But I didn't like them. They made me feel too anxious. Like my heart would be like, ooh. So I couldn't take them. I stopped them. These ones are a lot better because you can take them if you need them. You don't have to take them if you don't want to. And I just find since I went on them, oh my God, I noticed such a difference and I know I'm still not the best at being organized or all of that, but just the difference that it did make was amazing.
Interesting. I can't believe we haven't discussed this now. Yeah, and I'm Googling it, and it basically says the dexamphetamine and Adderall, they're similar, but Adderall has a combination of 4 different amphetamine salts, including dextromethorphan, which is the strongest one. So actually Adderall isn't as potent because it contains some of the weaker stimulants as well. So I think you've got the strongest. So that's interesting. And that you take it on demand. So, which I would think would lend to more abuse, but probably more likely by someone with alcoholic genes as well. I mean,
yeah, but the doctor will only prescribe you that amount for the month, and you can't pick them up from the chemist like earlier than a month. So
right.
You've only got that for the month. So if that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. How many can you take a day?
Well, to begin with, I only took 4, but I can take up to 6 or 8 a day.
And not run out, obviously. And how many do you average?
So usually around 6. Sometimes it'd be more depending on how much I've got to get done. And you can depending on what the doctor says, take them in time. But yeah, that's roughly how many I take. But I did actually try, because I've been having problems with my sleep. I thought, maybe it's got something to do with them. So I dropped them right back. And I think some days I didn't even take any, but it had no difference on my sleep whatsoever.
Interesting. All right. I'm going to quickly tell my medication story, and then I want to hear if you can relate to it, but you'd actually help confirm my theory if you can. So I went on about 6 months ago. I went on Adderall, 20 milligrams. I picked up my prescription at 3:00 on a Friday and took one. I couldn't take one fast enough, took it in the parking lot thinking this was going to be my cure-all. This was the extended release. I had previously, I forgot, I was on the non-stimulant. It's called atomexatine, something like that. I was on that for months, didn't do a thing. Initially, they only put me on 10 milligrams. I went up to 40. Then I doubled it on my own, 80. You can go up to 100 of that. Did nothing for me. And it said it would take, I think, like a week. And I thought all extended release things took like a week to get into your system, right? So an hour after I took the Adderall, I am flying high. But coincidentally that day, I drank full calf coffee. I typically only ever drink half calf. And I don't even need the calf at all. But I used the Starbucks half calf K-Cups. Well, I ran out. So I bought real coffee, like real iced coffee that day. So I thought it was the caffeine was the reason I was sky high. I didn't even consider it was the Adderall because I only took it an hour before. I'm flying high that night. I knew you only get your 30 days. And like you said, I know you can't even, they barely can even get it a day early, your new prescription. But that night, even though I was already flying high, I had already decided in my head, I'm going to take 2 the first day, just the first day, so we're getting my system faster. So I even took a second one, say at 8 o'clock that night. Well, I'm flying high that night. Didn't eat dinner till 2 a.m., and I was up till 4 a.m., and I did not budge from my computer the entire night. It was amazing. Now, I'd like to say I did real work. I mainly texted my sober friend Amy, all these crazy creative thoughts I had that basically would go in my book. I basically started writing my life story, but to Amy on text. But it was the best feeling I ever had. And I've never experienced that feeling, or at least ever, hardly ever, where I didn't want to move from my computer. And I basically wanted to work, even though I wasn't still doing exactly what I needed to do. So I then, from there, never took as directed. You're supposed to take one every morning. I never did that once. I would always wait till I needed to be productive. I think the very next morning I had to host a meeting at 11:30, a sobriety meeting. I slept till like 10:30, jumped up, took that pill, thought it would help me even more so on the call. And then I was sky high after the call. Bottom line, and it worked for me for about a week. But anytime I had to do a hard thing, I started saving up hard things to do for the afternoon when I knew I'd be settled on my computer. And I was treating it just like I did with drinking. I would wait to do hard things because I couldn't do hard things sober. I would wait and use the alcohol to help me, even though it only worked for 20 minutes and made things worse once it stopped working for me. And so I was doing that with the Adderall. And a friend right away in my sobriety community who had experience said, stop taking them immediately. You're not a candidate. You're going to abuse them, etc. And I said, all right, I will never take 2 again. And if I do, I will stop. Of course, later that week, I took a second. I think before we had open mic night, which I had done my first ever open mic night on my community, completely sober, super sober, didn't even use anxiety meds, anything. Now all of a sudden I need 2. I took one that afternoon. The mic night's at 8 p.m. I needed to take a second one to do that. And so now I'm not taking them on Sundays so I can, won't run out of pills. I made it to the first month to get my prescription. The second month I ran out a week early. But luckily I was going on vacation with my family where I wouldn't need to be productive. And that's it. I went off the medication and I've not been back since. The funny part is for about a week, I still felt that productivity. Oh, and I still had all of a sudden had hand-eye coordination, which I've never had in my life. And I still had it playing pickleball and golf. I played the best golf of my life, by the way, during that period, and pickleball. But it only lasted for another week. So yeah, the Adderall is still in my system. I said, oh my God, my brain's already been rewired. This is a miracle. And then a week later, I was back to my dopey self with no work ethic and no ability. But my point is, and my theory is that only alcoholics or addicts, I hate the word, but only those with substance abuse disorders will really be that prone to abusing them. Although I know like kids, there's the thing, right? Or everybody, even I was just talking to a girl, sorry, and then I'll let you, that sells hers. They switched her from Ritalin to Adderall because of the bad rap, I guess, of Ritalin. So, but Adderall doesn't work for her. So she sells it. And she said she even sells it to people that already have prescriptions, but they all want more of it. So then it's like, does everyone abuse it? Or is it just people with addict mentalities? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think so. I mean, because I've been a heavy drinker since I think the first time I had a drink, I remember being like, I think we're about 13. And there was me and my group of friends at school, and we used to go and get a 4-pack of Bacardi Breezes, get someone to go into the bottle shop and get us a 4-pack each. Or hooch. Can you remember hooch? Was that a thing in the States?
I've heard the term, but I don't think I know what it is.
Yeah, just like, the Bacardi Breezes kind of thing. So we used to start drinking then. And then I guess in the UK as well, like everyone is really big drinkers because there's nothing else to do because the weather's always rubbish. And then even like when you leave school, everything, I've always been like, we've always drunk a lot at like the week. I guess more, it's probably more so binge drinking at the weekends. And I go through like, I used to drink a lot, like depending on what's going on in your life, you know, but I'd never start drinking until like the afternoon. I'm a lot better than I was because I used to drink a lot. You know, I don't drink every night. But I think it just depends from person to person, right? And what goes on in your life. And having ADHD, I guess, is a big contribution to that.
Yeah. Well, how do you decide when you're going to take? What's your typical schedule? Because you only take them on demand, basically, right? You just take them when you're trying to be productive. So that alone, addict or not, you would think, well, no, I'm going to... But you only take one at a time, right?
I can take 2 at a time. I couldn't to begin with, but I guess because your body gets more used to them. And then I take 2 in the morning, and then sometimes I might not take one until lunchtime. And then I never take them past 4 o'clock, usually 2 o'clock, because I think it can affect your sleep. But I never have problems falling to sleep with them. But everyone's different with them. Everyone reacts differently. And I guess that's why your doctor tells you what you can and can't do. And the longer you've been on them or whatever, and how you respond to them. I don't know.
Is there a dosage on yours?
Yeah, I think they're 5. Yeah, 5 milligram.
Yeah, I asked it that way because I just Googled dexamphetamine, how long effective, and it just gave me an answer without telling me based on the milligram count. So it would help to know that. All right, so I put in 5 milligrams, and it says, well, it gave me the same answer. If it's immediate release, which you have, it's 4 to 6 hours. So
yeah,
that's really where I'm going with this. Like a normal drinker, right, will be able to kind of milk their drink, you know, sip it, and then is not going to be obsessed with their next drink halfway through that first drink. But that's an alcoholic mindset, right? So if I take one pill, I mean, my favorite meme says, oh, there's a pill to cure addiction. I wonder what 2 of them would do. And that is the perfect description. So if I took one, and that's basically what I was doing with the Adderall. Basically, the second one, they say, has no real effect. But I would be so worried about that first one running out, the effect running out, that then I would need to take a second one.
You'd want to take a second one.
Yeah. And so you can take one and probably wait till that essentially runs out. That's why I asked. But do you wait till you kind of feel it running out? Do you wait till you feel unmotivated?
Yeah, more so when I'm like, if I'm a bit like, a bit spacey, not spacey, but a bit like walking around the house and like not doing, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, where am I going? What am I doing right now? And then I'll be like, I'll look at the time and I'll be like, okay, it's been like so many hours and I haven't taken my tablets. So that's why I'm being like this. And then I'll take another one.
Interesting. All right. Do you know what hit me recently was the irony, for those at home, Adderall, dexamphetamine, all those are stimulants. Now they say ADHD people are overstimulated. We are hyperstimulated because we notice everything. We focus on everything. So the cure for being overstimulated is, what's the medical cure? To take a stimulant. That makes no sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Right?
Nah.
Isn't that crazy? Although what I tried initially, that atomexetine is a non-stimulant, but of course that did not work for me. And I talked to the woman I talked to recently that I mentioned has the Adderall. She said the same thing. Doesn't work for her. People claim it works for them, but I don't know. What that actually is supposed to do is keep dopamine in your system longer. But if you don't have much in there anyway, then how's it going to keep it in there longer? So,
do you know what? I think as well, I remember when I was starting the dexamphetamines, one of the benefits for me was it dropped my anxiety massively. That was a massive thing that went.
Oh my God. Yes. Get this. So, I'm so open in my recovery community and I'm pretty much open with everybody. So I immediately announced on that very first call, the night after the Adderall, I said, everybody, I just went on Adderall. And I even took 2 last night, and I was up till 4. I don't know if I announced I took 2, but I might have. I wouldn't. But I said I was up till 4 a.m., blah, blah, blah. Well, a guy after the call told me, he goes, listen, man, one thing to watch out for is that basically your mouth has no filter. And it's funny, I initially thought he meant it gives you dry mouth, because that hugely did for me. And those are a couple of the side effects. Loss of appetite, dry mouth, and for a lot of people, as you mentioned, hard time sleeping. Although, you know what I said? The reason up till 4 a.m., my whole life I've heard about people, especially kids, or in general, people being on meth, which is, I love that this medication, Adderall and what you're taking, is slow release meth, right? So did you watch Breaking Bad? Yeah, right? So everyone who did, I've never tried cocaine. I've never tried anything but pot. Never thought I would try meth in my life because I, mainly risk an addiction to it. And all of a sudden, I'm taking slow release meth. Although back to the original night, remember I said I took it at 3 o'clock and I was sky high by 4. I blamed the caffeine. It wasn't until, I didn't Google it till several days later. I finally said, wait a minute, is this already the Adderall? And yeah, it works within like an hour. Even the extended release works within an hour, maybe even 30 minutes. Yeah, it's crazy. That's a misnomer. Extended release is not appropriate. And by the way, I should have gone on Vyvanse. So Vyvanse is another one, which 15 years ago, when I went for an ADD test, and the guy actually just said I had depression and put me on Wellbutrin, but it made my heart race, speaking of trouble sleeping. So I went off of it, and he never prescribed anything else. I wish he had just told me, give it time, because my heart, when I did go on the Adderall, it settled down within a week or so, or I just got used to it.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say when I got on Breaking Bad was all this I've heard about people being up all night tweaking. You heard that term? Just, I think it means just doing stuff, cleaning, like taking apart their motorcycle or whatever, putting them back together. Because it does. It makes you want to do everything. It was like, oh, I wish I could clean right now, but I was trying to work. But my point is, I don't think, so I always pictured it was from making your heart race that you never wanted to sleep. To me, it was because I finally had a work ethic, which again, I'm going to call it for now, even though it's no, it made me feel like doing real work. No, I think it is doing real work for the first time in forever. So that's why I didn't want to go to bed. And I think that's probably the same for a lot of people, like kids staying up all night studying. They're incented to study.
Because you're not taking it till late. Of course you're not going to go to sleep if you're taking it that late in the day. Like, you have to like let it wear off, right, to be able to. I mean, I'm no doctor, so I don't know.
Well,
but
you aren't a doctor in this case, because with the extended release, it's just supposed to be, you're supposed to take it every morning, even though I didn't. But extended release just means, or it's a daily. You take one a day.
One a day.
Yeah, there's no, it's not supposed to work like that. But your type, what do you stop? Do you take your last one well before? How long before you want to go to sleep?
Between 2 and 4 o'clock will be the last time I take one.
Wow.
In the afternoon. Yeah.
Interesting. And what time do you go to bed?
I'm an early person. I'm usually in bed around 9 and usually always asleep by 10 at the latest.
That's awesome. I don't know why.
Up at, 4:30, 5. Usually up around 5, 4:30, 5.
What's 4:30, 5? 4:30? Does that mean?
4:30. 4:30, 5 o'clock. And I make myself a cup of tea.
Yeah, let's hear you do an American accent. Can you say park the car in Harvard Yard with an American accent?
Park your car in what? Harvard Yard. I can't do an American accent.
Really? Oh, you're no fun. I thought.
What else do they say?
We do that one to show the mass accent. We say park the car in Harvard Yard.
Park your car in Harvard Yard. See, I can't do accents.
That's not bad.
At all. Cannot do accents.
Do you watch Succession?
No.
Oh, you don't know that show?
No.
I think that's the show I'm thinking of. There's a woman on there. The main woman the daughter is this redhead who speaks perfect English, as in American English. And she's one of those actors. Then we come to find out she's British, but you would never know. There's a lot of British actors that do perfect American accents. Yeah, it's amazing.
Bloody hell. I can't use that word either, but so obviously my boyfriend Daniel is Brazilian and he's such an English. Don't even know. I'm so bad at spelling. I'm dyslexic as well. And I've got him saying this word. It's so funny with his accent and how he says it. I just can't stop laughing at him. Oh, yeah. Do you know what I did see? This is so funny. What's his name? The comedian in the UK and takes the piss out of Americans and like how they call it sidewalk instead of a pavement. Sidewalk. Use the sidewalk. Or trash can. They don't know it's a bin. They got to name it trash can so you can put your trash in it.
Well, how do you distinguish the sidewalk is the specific elevated portion on the side of the road to walk on? You just say pavement.
Yeah.
But you're already on do you understand the road is also pavement? Say your kid's walking on the street and you want to say, get on the sidewalk. If he's already on the street, he's already on the pavement.
It's the road. Get off the road onto the pavement. It's just so funny because there's another thing I think on YouTube and they've got like English, American and Australian and all the three different like the same thing but how we all call them different things. You should have a look at that. It's quite funny.
All right. Well, I will. And do you know, what do you call the thing that you park your car in front of your house?
Oh.
Your flat.
Garage?
Well, say that's an enclosed thing.
Garage.
No, I love that. That's not.
Garage.
Garage. Yeah, garage. Do you say garage?
Garage.
Garage. That's awesome. Yeah, we do say garage, but that's not what I mean. Not the enclosed portion. What do you call?
Oh. You what?
The part in front of.
Like driveway?
Driveway. Okay. So, Karla, you know the term highway. They call it here, I think you've told me in Australia they call it highway as well. What do you call it in England?
Motorway.
Motorway. All right. Well, in California and other places in the U.S., they call it a parkway. And then what you park your car in front of your house is called a driveway. So in California, they drive on the parkway and they park in their driveway. How dumb is that? And they also say, some people also say aunt instead of aunt. What do you say for that? What do you say? Your relative, your aunt?
Oh, my aunt.
Yeah, you say aunt too. That kills me.
Aunt.
There's a U in that word.
Auntie.
And what do you call the termite little thing that's spelled A-N-T? You call that an ant, right?
Aunt. Yeah, that's aunt. Auntie. Yeah, posh people do, but I'm not posh.
Back to bullocks. It's funny, and I never thought maybe international. They will edit this, or they will censor that because international. Yeah, I always forget about international language. Okay, abrupt ending. Surprise, surprise. So stay tuned for part 2. I do want to point out, we talk a lot about ADD meds. I have not seen a psychiatrist. It was my psychologist, my therapist, who had diagnosed me, and my primary care physician kind of hand in hand had prescribed the Adderall that I was on. I'm now at the point, if I do ever consider going back on meds, I absolutely do need to shell out time and money to go see a psychiatrist to make sure I'm on the proper medication and the proper dosage. So very important to note that. And I don't want to go back on meds because I know you can do it without it if you do the work, which I have talked about, including the podcast number 5 with Ali, but involves, morning routines and nightly routines, calendaring, but I still struggle to do those things. So now my joke is I think I need to get on meds just to get me focused to do the work. And then maybe once I have the work and the systems in place, I can get off the meds. So stay tuned on that. And as always, If you're on YouTube, please like, share, subscribe on Spotify and Apple. If you can go to the main podcast page and just scroll down, give it a quick rating. Greatly appreciate it. And then an Apple review would make you a hero. Thanks, as always. Peace.